As a young person who is trying to build their career, I don't know about you, but I have people who I watch intently, people who are further along in their own music careers, who do similar or, relatively the same thing to what I am doing. I look to them. And one of those artists is Patrick Bartley. Look, I had a baby about a year ago. I have a young child who I have to take care of. I don't really have a lot of time to transcribe full solos nowadays, the same way, that I would have had when I was still doing my studies or a little bit after my studies. Now it's really about what is the most important thing that I have to do in my life. And for now, it's taking care of my child, getting the most efficient practice that I can. In one of the interviews that Patrick Bartley had done, he mentioned this thing of, you don't have to transcribe a whole Charlie Parker solo. Maybe you just like the way in which he handles turnarounds when you listen to a lot of his recordings. And that really just made me think. Somehow it just takes someone to say something that you already knew, but it makes you think about it in a little bit of a different way. Because I'm not gonna lie, as much as I really try hard to practice as much as I can, a lot of the times I feel like I'm not practicing enough. And I don't know, when he said that, he actually sparked something in me. A lot of you know that McCoy Tyner is basically my favorite piano player. Although I have looked at a lot of his music, you can never really be done checking someone out. And when he said that, maybe you just like how Parker handles turnarounds. I actually really love how Tyner handles turnarounds. There's just something about turnarounds, especially when you move into like a chord 4 or just the end of a form, that if you do something really specific and crunchy, it really highlights that turnaround, and if you don't, it can be kind of like a missed opportunity. Actually, just taking something as simple as a turnaround can maybe even make you sound as close as you want to the person who you are trying to learn from. It's not always about doing the full solo, although transcribing full solos, I'm not gonna lie, have their place. But if you're in a position where, I know sometimes people can be like, oh, I don't have the time to do all of that, or I don't have the strength or even the theory to be able to understand everything that this artist is doing. Maybe if you just take something as simple as how they treat turnarounds, you can really learn something, because a lot of these artists play conceptually. Each artist has their own concept in which they handle getting around changes. And when you analyze specific points at various choruses or forms, you will notice that they actually apply the same kind of method or same kind of treatment. McCoy Tyner is one of those. I'm gonna be taking his solo from Basie's Blues, which he plays on Coltrane's album Crescent. Just the way in which he handles moving to the chord 4. Now Basie's Blues it's an E flat blues. The other turnaround that I really loved is one where he uses over a C altered 7 chord, where he uses a pentatonic, a minor third above. And pentatonics are really melodic just by virtue of the fact that there's only 5 notes, and the distance between the notes give them a really melodic shape. Starting with Basie's Blues. So this is kind of like how I'm going to take you through how typically I work in incorporating something into my playing. This is actually what he does in the beginning. So he starts by playing this kind of E flat 7, then it goes to the 4, and then to anticipate moving to the chord 4, he does A7 instead. Right, it's kind of like he was using the concept that he was using already, this, but in a tritone sub, which sounds really cool. Another turnaround that I really love that Tyner does is over his song Blues Back, which is in an F blues. It's a slow blues. Turnaround is blues form, at the end there's an altered C7 chord where we will see him do this. And for this C7 altered, right, we have a sharp 9 on top of there, and essentially it's going to be using the fully altered scale, which would have sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5, sharp 11. But what Tyner does is he uses the E flat minor pentatonic, which is the pentatonic a minor third away from the root. So the line starts on the flat 7 of E flat minor. He's really getting the flat 9, he's getting the sharp 9, he's getting sharp 11, he's getting sharp 5 and flat 7. Alright, this is basically the first 5 chords if we're going from flat 7 of E flat minor pentatonic. And then he kind of repeats the same thing an octave above, except he lands differently. Here he jumps to the tonic, goes back to flat 7. Another thing about this kind of playing, it's also in how you actually resolve your way out of it. So you don't want to sound like you're just playing a pentatonic and then playing an F mixolydian when you go back to F7. How you land it is actually going to be just as important. So I could do something like, right, it's like a half step thing, and the 5 is always a good place. Right, the 5 of F7 is always a good place, or the 3rd is always a good place to land. So usually what I would do is I would say, okay, these are 2 basic concepts. Isolating, moving from chord 1 to chord 4 in a blues, that would be a half step above every time I go to chord 4. And at first I will try to do it exactly how McCoy Tyner does it. Basis blues is in E flat 7, so I'm going to do it in F7, and I'm going to see if I can actually transpose it, and then I'll probably take it a few keys as well. So he did, here's F7 blues. So now we would have to translate that to B7, a half step above the chord 4. Chord 4 is B flat 7, so that would mean that I would have to go to B7. Now I'll try to kind of incorporate it and make it into my own. If I do this thing of enclosing the 3rd. That's the tritone. Or I could do a line like, right? So you can pretty much take almost anything and make it sound as melodic as possible. Another thing that McCoy really likes to do, this is just kind of like a side tangent, is actually anticipate. It was Amy Nolte who made this video on one of Tyner's solos that he did, and she titled it Anticipatory Pentatonics. McCoy Tyner does this a lot. He always anticipates what's coming. He doesn't actually play the alteration or substitution on the beat, but almost way ahead of the beat. So if I do something like, so I was already on that B7, at least a beat and a half, 2 beats. So if you add a little bit of anticipation as well, it tends to be very effective, because of course it's going to sound outside while you are on a diatonic chord. So I guess that C7 alt line we can of course add when we get to the chord 5. We would have the 5 of 2, and then we would do well, I mean, it's a long line, so maybe we might have to chop it up, because in that blues that he did, it's actually an extended, that C7 I think happens over 2 bars or one slow one, whatever the case is. Here it might need to move a little bit more faster. I think this is also the trick when you are transcribing something, is to actually make it fit in a way where it doesn't sound like you just, you know, grabbed it and inserted it. So I just did so. I guess you could find a way to do the whole thing there, but sometimes actually when I take licks, sometimes I even forget what the original sounds like, because in the place that I am at, and sometimes based on the speed the original was in, I end up just taking like the last bit or the first bit, whatever really interests me. So